So I'm gonna say this. For some reason, the next few books, especially after I read Sugar, had something to do with ministers that were not necessarily in. I'm gonna say they weren't called, because this was it amazes me how people stand behind the sacred desk and do and say the things that they do, but after they get down talking. But anyway, so we're going to start off with this one. Now, I will say I did, like I said, started out with Sugar. I didn't spill the beans in that book, but there was something going on with that. But back to Casting the First Stone by Kimberla Lawson Roby. So this book is one of my church book club books, and it was interesting. Like I said, it's one of those minister ones. So Tanya Black seems to have it all: a successful career, a devoted husband who is the pastor of this mega church named Reverend Curtis Black, and a loving daughter, Alicia Black. But when troubling rumors began to swirl about Reverend Curtis Black, Tanya's world unravels. As a pastor's wife, she's caught between loyalty and the painful realization that a man she married may not be who she thought. Once the betrayal is confirmed, Tanya must reconcile her faith, her dignity, and her future in the church, and a marriage that no longer feels sacred. So Curtis and Tanya started off. She was at Spelman. He was at Morehouse. They hooked up and got married. He told her right before they got married that he had been called. Anyway, so they start off with a small church in the Atlanta area, and then this church confided in him. I can't remember if it was Ohio or Illinois, Chicago, somewhere up north. And this church has 3,000 members. He started getting beside himself. He kept telling them they needed to bring in more and more money. She was wondering what was it that he needed. He was getting paid $3,000 a week, which the last time I was doing that math, 3 times 4 is $12,000 a month. What could you possibly be doing? So anyway, I'm all fed up with Reverend Black as I'm reading this book. And I called my friend and I said, what in the world? So I happened to be looking on Amazon, found out that Reverend Curtis Black has several books. I have to give it Kimberla Roby. I mean, she has a whole series. I personally don't think I'm going to be reading them, but, I had to figure out if Curtis was going to live. Because I tell you, if I had been Tanya, they'd be singing low and eating chicken over his body, because he did anything and everything. And I just cannot get over, and this is another book I'm going to do a review on. I cannot get over these ministers having these orgies. What in the world? Anywho, and the sad thing is, y'all, this is not fiction. This is truth. So, I mean, I'm just saying. Anywho, Tanya stuck it out. Now, she did do a little something. I ain't going to spill the beans, but I tell you, Curtis did all of it. He did everything. So he was about to lose. In fact, he did lose the church, because that was one thing in his contract was he had to be married. And I can understand if you have a church that large, the minister cannot minister without a wife. That was one of the things that he was trying to keep from happening after he did what he did. I will say, long time ago, I told my daughters, the things that run the world: sex, money, and power. And I promise you, all 3 of them was in this book. So here's my quick review. I rated The Casting the First Stone 4 out of 5. I will not be purchasing this book. For its emotional depth and authentic portrayal of faith, scandal, and female empowerment. I will say, Roby did give Tanya a lot of power and autonomy. I love that. I really did love that. She did not let her be weak. She stood up for what she needed, and she got it. She got it. And I'm glad. I'm very glad that she did. And I love that about the book. But she masterfully crafts Tanya's internal journey from trusting pastor's wife to a woman fighting for her truth and dignity. This novel blends the emotional tension of the woman in the window with the spiritual introspection of Redeeming Love, which I did read Redeeming Love. That one was good too. Yeah, that was pairing a book in the Bible, which I thought was phenomenal. The pacing is engaging, especially as Tanya confronts the rumors, the church's response, and our own painful awakening. Y'all, the way this thing blew up, he should have. I'm going to leave it at that. While some scenes are melodramatic, the raw betrayal, forgiveness, and transformation feels genuine and true, I will say. Because I know. If you want to read this book, it's 320 pages. And if you want to listen to it, it is 11. I just thank you for